Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. 3.5 years ago, I was named CEO of Chicago Public Schools, a job that many of you know was and still is my dream job. Growing up on the south side of Chicago, I first stepped into a CPS classroom when my parents took me to register at Cook Elementary in the Auburn-Gresham community for Head Start. This situation is very telling because one of my earliest memories in life was stepping into a CPS classroom. I remember being upset because I couldn't stick around that day because it was registration and had to return the next day. And I did, and pretty much I haven't left ever since. Since that first day in Head Start, I've graduated from Hyde Park High School, taught social studies at South Shore, wrote a grant to create and lead Al Raby High School in the Garfield Park community, opened Westinghouse College Prep in the Garfield Park community, and became a CPS parent, my most important role. I've served as the chief of schools in Hyde Park, Bronzeville, and Woodline, and overseeing all academic initiatives as the district's chief ed officer. Then I was given the immense responsibility and privilege to serve as CEO, which I've done for the past years. I have lived my entire life and served this district for 22 years. I've given my all to our students, and in return, I've received far more. And it's with a full heart and a grateful heart that I am announcing that I have chosen not to renew my contract, which expires at the end of June. This job has been everything I dreamt of, and sometimes a little bit more than that. You were all there. But soon, it will be someone else's turn to lead this district. My work from CPS is far from done. Before I leave, we plan to roll out a framework to address the significant challenges that many of our students have faced both academically and from a social and emotional standpoint due to this pandemic. We're going to move full steam ahead to make sure that our planning for the fall is in place. The goal, again, is to have students in school every single day in the fall, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And we're also going to launch a transformative resource for our schools, the Universal Curriculum, also known as Skyline, that we have been creating and planning for the past 2 years. And as I look back on what we've done, I am both proud and humbled, and also a little tired, if I'm being honest. Our schools have made record-breaking progress that has attracted the attention of national education researchers. Never before have so many students in CPS graduated from high school, matriculated into college, successfully completed college, or went on to make their impact in the world because of the education they received in CPS. I know from every single moment that I've been employed in this district, I've done every single thing within my power to make that happen, but the credit here is due to the students themselves, our amazing educators, the staff who work in our buildings, and most importantly, the parents, all of whom make CPS a special place. Throughout everything that we've done, we have had equity at the forefront. In my prior role as a chief education officer, we tackled one of the district's long-standing challenges, access to selective enrollment schools and choice options, by building a universal application for applying to schools. Just a couple of days ago, we released our Go CPS offers for the upcoming school year. And I'm happy to report that we more than doubled the number of offers to students with disabilities in selective enrollment schools. This is something that I'm incredibly proud of. As CEO, one of my first major decisions was building the district's Office of Equity, led by a chief officer that reported directly to me. This office has been central to my decision-making throughout my time as chief executive officer. We have made sure that our policies, practices, and most importantly, our investments were all designed to meet the needs of the students who need us the most. We have enhanced our budgeting process and rolled out a first-of-its-kind equity grants that made sure schools received additional funding to support their academic programs. Last month, we rolled out the new budget for the upcoming school year, and for the third year in a row, we included equity grants. Each year, those grants increased. We launched a first-of-its-kind application process that empowered school communities to apply for academic programs, high-quality academic programs such as STEM, IB, fine arts, and more. To date, more than 50 schools have received these new programs, and we will be making announcements in the coming weeks about even more. We have made a big bet on the groundbreaking curriculum Skyline that I mentioned earlier. Never before has the district had a fully aligned curriculum from pre-K through 12th grade that is high quality, modern, and culturally responsive. This is something, again, that I'm incredibly proud of. We've reached record high numbers of staffing for nurses, counselors, and case managers, and we will continue to make those investments over the coming years. And the thing that I'm most proud of as CEO is that we have built 2 state-of-the-art, high-quality school options on the south side of Chicago, where I'm from: Inglewood STEM High School and Bronzeville Classical. These schools addressed real needs in the community and brought investment in a resource that had been missing for decades. And we did this by working hand in hand with the community action councils who demanded more from our school system. I want to give a special thank you to all of the CACs throughout the city that continue to work hard and advocate for their communities to make sure that they have high quality options. We've also dealt with challenges that necessitated massive system-wide response. Shortly into my tenure as CEO, we faced challenges stemming from systemic failures to address sexual abuse and harassment. These were long-standing issues that had gone unnoticed. We did not hesitate to respond by launching the district's first Title IX office, which has become a national model in K-12 districts. We revised our process for checking backgrounds to make sure that only the right people were in front of our kids. And we also strengthened the discipline process to hold people accountable for failing to report. And we made tremendous investments in training and awareness programs for our students and staff. We've navigated labor challenges that disrupted the beginning of last school year. And then, of course, COVID hit. We had to completely redesign how school functioned while ensuring that parents had access to free, high-speed internet, nutritious meals, and technology. That response, which truly required the best efforts from everyone in our district, is unlike anything our district had ever seen, and the work remains ongoing. I want to thank everybody from our teachers, principals, counselors, parents, and students, to our custodians, our nutrition staff, and our folks in central office, all of whom worked extremely hard to address these challenges. I would not be here today, and our district would not have achieved what it has without so many dedicated individuals, and for that, I will always be grateful. For former Mayor Emanuel, I want to thank you for your friendship and mentorship in believing in me and putting me in this leadership role. To Mayor Lightfoot, I want to give you a hearty thank you for trusting me, empowering me, and embracing the vision that I have for Chicago Public Schools. You did not have to do that, yet you did, and I'm forever grateful. To President Del Valle and the Board of Education, they work incredibly hard on behalf of the students and families here in Chicago. I want to thank you for the leadership, invaluable insight, perspective, while also continuing to push us forward to improve. And to my team at Central Office, AKA the Dream Team, and I say that unapologetically, you have truly been the best and most impactful team that this district has ever seen, and I want to thank you for your hard work and dedication. Thank you for giving me everything and pushing me to do better and continuing to push hard even when I know I was driving you all crazy. To our principals and school staff who do tireless work day in and day out to make this district what it is, I want to thank you for supporting me, challenging me, and above all else, giving your all to our students. And to the parents and students who I was so blessed to support, I cannot imagine another profession that would be as rewarding and fulfilling as it has been to work in public education here in Chicago. This job in my entire career has been more than I have ever imagined. This was a dream job. Imagine being able to work and serve in the district that gave so much to you. You will not see me running another school district, but I will continue to devote my professional life to public education, and I will continue to look for ways to lift up students and families who need us the most. But for now, my family is ready for me to spend more time with them, and until they are not, which is probably in 2 seconds because you're dealing with teenagers, I'll focus on that. I want to thank my husband for being my rock, my kids who are amazing, and my village who supported me to do this, especially my mother and my mother-in-law. It's hard to be a working mom and do this work, and you need a village to do it. And while I'm stepping aside, the school leaders and staff that are still in our building make up this great district. And I know that they, along with Mayor Lightfoot and our board, will select a great CEO to take Chicago Public Schools to the next level and give our kids the schools that they deserve. The best truly are with CPS, and it has been an honor to serve you. Thank you. And I said I wasn't going to cry.
Of course you're going to cry. I think she deserves another round of applause. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. Look, there's no easy way to say this, but I, like many of you, are saddened that Dr. Jackson has made this decision to step down as CEO of public schools. But I also know she always puts the most important things and values first, and that's her family. And I understand this decision, and I support it. Through my time as mayor, Dr. Jackson's steadfast partnership and fearless leadership has been beyond invaluable, and in more ways than one has made our city a better place in tangible ways. That's why beyond this feeling of sadness is a feeling of intense gratitude that words cannot begin to fully describe. Over the course of more than 3 years as CPS's CEO, Dr. Jackson has blazed a trail of successes and record-setting achievements. Under her leadership, we have seen our students reach ever-increasing heights of promise and success. From new highs in graduation rates, new highs in college enrollment and scholarship levels, the establishment of universal pre-K, record levels of capital investments, the expansion of school support staff, and much, much more. Dr. Jackson, as you just saw, has always been the first to tell you that these successes don't belong to her, that they are shared achievement of countless people in the CPS ecosystem, not the least of which is our children, their parents, teachers, principals, support staff, and many others, all doing everything they can to make sure our children get the education they need to succeed, and she's not wrong. But the reason why this collaborative effort is possible in the first place is because Dr. Jackson and her tremendous talent and her laser-focused leadership and the leadership team that she has built, all with a heart to make sure that our students are getting what they need to be able to be successful in school, but also in life. Dr. Jackson sees and recognizes the value of each and every individual who is part of our school community, especially those from historically underrepresented backgrounds, an outlook that she has honed over a lifetime at CPS. First as a student, as you heard, then as a star teacher, a principal, a district administrator, chief education officer, and finally, a CEO. There are not many who can tell this kind of story, having walked in the day at school as a Head Start student and then leaving at the end of June as the CEO of the same district. It's a remarkable, remarkable story and accomplishment. It's this lived experience, as well as Dr. Jackson's emphasis on equity and inclusion, that have and will continue to drive excellence in our school system. Dr. Jackson's tenure illustrates that success isn't the result of one program or one initiative, but instead a holistic approach to education and youth development that ensures every single one of our students receives the rigor, love, and support that they need, regardless of their circumstances or zip code, and regardless of what other challenges may arise. Hold on one second.
Oh, thank you. I'm like, what happened?
Just trying to be helpful, Marianne. Now, since I became mayor, Dr. Jackson and I have worked closely together through a number of challenges that have threatened to slow or reverse the progress that we've made to create a world-class school system for our world-class city. one that provides equal opportunities for students, regardless of their race and ethnicity, household income, and zip code, and erases the achievement and graduation gaps between students. By no means has this mission been easy. And as Dr. Jackson would be the first to tell you, our mission on behalf of our students and parents is not yet accomplished. Far from it. And along the way, there have been several events that have intensified and complicated this effort, with the pandemic in particular being among the most challenging that we've experienced in our city, in our school system, perhaps ever. It turned the lives of our students and their families upside down and left our school community scrambling to develop ways to keep our children engaged and learning, all while being safe. In the face of uncertainty, however, Dr. Jackson has been a steady hand. She hasn't hesitated, dug in her heels, and took these challenges head on, making multiple unprecedented multi-million-dollar investments to ensure that our children were able to receive free meals while schools were closed, had laptops and internets to learn from home and at remote learning sites, and has done so to lead the nation in our Chicago Connected program, which is still remarkable and one which is the envy of other school districts across the country. Return to classrooms with air purifiers, high-quality ventilation, and plenty of PPE and hand sanitizer and other mitigation efforts to demonstrate decisively that our schools are safe for learning. She has also made sure that we've had access to the tools that our students need to restore and protect their emotional and social well-being through a healed-centered framework. And the list goes on and on. Throughout every step of the way, Dr. Jackson has never lost sight of her mission to do what's right for our children, expanding enormous amounts of time, energy, and sacrifice, personal sacrifice, to provide them with the high-quality education they need and deserve. But now is the time to turn the page and begin the next leg of our journey. Like runners in a relay race, Dr. Jackson has run her leg of the race well, and now passes the baton. Overseeing a system as large and as diverse as CPS requires an immense amount of skill and experience in normal circumstances. But nothing about this past year or the ones to come will be normal. We're venturing into new territory. And we still have hard work ahead of us to restore some semblance of normalcy for the lives of our children and their families. Dr. Jackson has proven herself to be more than capable of leading CPS with grace, determination, will, and laser focus on bettering the lives of our students, long before a pandemic had ever hit our city. And truthfully, her high-heeled shoes will not be easy to fill. But in a city like Chicago, with all of the talent inside and outside of CPS, from building principals and teachers to administrators, education experts, and funders, and of course, our incredible students and parents, we offer a wealth of assets and opportunities for the next CEO and leadership team. I am personally energized and ready to roll up my sleeves to set the next CEO and leadership team up for success. There are extraordinary and talented education leaders in Chicago and across the country. And the CPS diaspora alone is deep and talented. So in our nationwide search, we will be drawing upon a deep well of talented, proven leaders. And I am confident that we will find the next great leader for CPS. To aid this process, we have retained a top-notch search firm. And we will be soliciting input from a number of stakeholders in a number of different ways. These times demand that we engage in a robust process of taking the pulse of our CPS stakeholders. Of course, our parents and our students and our teachers, principals, and other administrators, and of course, our board will have a seat at the table as we develop a process of engagement, and as I said, set the next CEO and the leadership team up for success. All of this engagement will ensure that the next CEO is able to not only handle the responsibilities that come along with it, but also has the relevant experience to make meaningful connections with those in our school community. Today's announcement has undoubtedly prompted a flood of emotions. I know it has for me, and I know it has for Dr. Jackson. But once again, I hope that the predominant sentiment is gratitude for Dr. Jackson's leadership and contributions over the past years of her tenure, not only as CEO, but as a school leader par excellence. And while the end of the school year will mark the end of her tenure as CEO, it is not the end of our mission to bring about transformative change to our public education system. Quite the opposite. We have a number of tough challenges that we must face as a district now and in the next few years. Black and brown student achievement being top of the list. And in my view, new beginnings provide new opportunities. New opportunities to support our students, new opportunities to support our families, and make public school the great equalizer that it is, both during and long after this pandemic is in our rearview mirror. I have spent a lot of time thinking about this day. I've also spent a lot of time thinking about what we need to do and step up as a city to be better and stronger for our young people. We need to build a village around our kids and their families from the earliest possible age. A stronger village that will make sure that our young people have all the supports and resources that they need to be successful in life, however they choose to define that. And CPS, of course, must be at the center of this village life. Our commitment to the transformation needed in this moment is organized around three themes: restore, recommit, and reimagine. We will restore relationships that have been harmed by a painful legacy that includes closing 50 of our schools in a way that, in my view, disregarded and disempowered parents' voices, devastated our Black and brown communities in many instances, and disrupted student trajectory. We have not healed from that experience, and we must do more to bring our communities together in unity and a sense of purpose on what is best for them and their students and families. We will recommit to our mission of giving our children access to a high-quality public education as early as possible in their lives. When I talk about building a village, I mean from birth till the time they hit the schoolhouse door. We must do better and must do more. And again, CPS will play a valuable role in that process, but so will other city agencies and not-for-profits and other people in the CPS ecosystem. We have an opportunity to set a new course for our children and for our city, and we will do just that. And we will reimagine what education means for our students, especially those who are Black and brown and have special needs. By taking lessons learned and the tools and strategies used during the past year to increase equity and access in ways that enable all students, especially those hardest hit by the pandemic, to achieve and grow both during and out of school. We live in a world-class city. We must make sure that we have a world-class public education system that is worthy of our children, that is worthy of our families, and make sure that they have the same access to resources so they can truly reach their God-given potential. I feel passionately about these things, as I hope you can tell. It stems from who I am, how I grew up, and what public education meant to me. I would not be standing here today without the kind of supports that I received as a public school student, without my village supporting me. I want our children to have the same things that set me on a path of success. We have hard work to do. And I just want to close by saying that I am forever grateful for Dr. Jackson, for her candor, for her leadership, for her strength, and for her support as a friend and as a professional. We have a journey ahead of us. We are at an important inflection point. But I feel even more enthusiastic and optimistic that we will be able to move forward together. And now I invite Chicago Board of Education President Miguel DeValle to also say a few words, and then he will be followed by Education City Council Chairman Michael Scott. President.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start by saying that on behalf of the board, we want to thank Dr. Jackson for 22 years of service. She talked about how she started as a student in preschool. It's similar to the way I started in the Chicago public school system. And then she became a parent. I became a CPS parent and a CPS grandparent. We've both been involved with the system for many, many years. And her passion for CPS has not changed at all. I met Dr. Jackson when I participated on a panel as the chairman of the Illinois P20 Council, where we were talking about the need to integrate our different services throughout the state and develop a comprehensive plan for P through 20 education in the state of Illinois. And I had a conversation with her. It was a brief conversation. And at that time, she was the principal of Westinghouse High School. And so when I found that out, I kind of invited myself and said to her, I'd like to visit your school. Immediately, she said, please, call me. Gave me her card, said, call me right away. I did. I set up the visit, and I had an opportunity to tour Westinghouse, even though Westinghouse is right there adjacent to the Humboldt Park area, one of my neighborhoods. I hadn't had the opportunity of entering the facility that had been constructed. And I went there, and sure enough, as only Dr. Jackson would do, she put me to work. She had me come in and speak to the AP government class. And I thoroughly enjoyed that, listening and speaking and answering questions of the students. But the time that I was most impressed with Dr. Jackson was when I started as the board, when the mayor appointed me to the board, and I was able to see up close, up front, how hard Dr. Jackson works on a day-to-day basis. I would say on an hour-to-hour basis. And how she used her strength, and I don't know where she gets it all, for sure, I tell you, but she is one of the strongest leaders I have ever met, and not just in education, but across the board. And so I was impressed with her leadership. I was impressed with her tenacity. I was impressed with her willingness to take on tough issues, as the mayor said, head on, without hesitation, and always knowing that the reason she proceeded time and time again to provide that strong leadership was because she felt, and still feels to this day, that it was in the best interest of our students. Our students come first. And I remember when we had that LSE reunion, and I came in to speak also. This was not that long ago. And I came in, Dr. Jackson, I've never said this to you, but I came into the building and I asked for you, and they said, she's in the classroom. She's in a room with students, with kids. And I walked in, and there was Dr. Jackson. She was all excited, all excited. I could see it in her eyes because she was with the kids, and she was interacting directly with those kids. And that said a lot to me about her heart, about her passion, about her priorities, and to see that humility which you have, the humility that is essential in this job, because there are always people out there who feel that they could somehow do it better than you, that they know the answers, that they know exactly what steps need to be taken at any given point in time. And Dr. Jackson just constantly moving forward. The other thing that impressed me about Dr. Jackson, when I started on the board, was the team that she had put together. And we have two key members here, Chief McDade and Chief Rivera. They were as tenacious as she is, and they were as dedicated as she is. And I thank them for the work that they have done over the years. But the time, as the mayor has said, the time has come. The board wants to go on record. We want everyone to know that this board immensely appreciates the contribution of Dr. Jackson. I was standing here listening to the mayor so eloquently speak about not just Dr. Jackson's accomplishments, but about the future also. And I thought, wow, following Dr. Jackson, it's like someone who constructed the Sears Tower. I still call it the Sears Tower, folks. Constructed the Sears Tower, and now we're asking the next person to come along and add some floors to the Sears Tower, because we know that we want to be the tallest building in the world. That's how I feel about Dr. Jackson's contribution, and how the board feels about Dr. Jackson's contribution. As a board, we look forward to, and we will work very hard with the mayor to come up with a new leader, and there will be a process, as the mayor has described, of engagement, and I'm confident, I'm very confident, and so is the board. I speak on behalf of the board members. The other 6 board members, we're very confident that we will be able to, once again, select a leader who is going to build on Dr. Jackson's accomplishments and her great team at CPS. And I want to thank the mayor for her passion and her commitment. You know, the mayor, I think thinks about education all the time. And I thought a lot about education. I've been thinking about education since I was in high school, when I did some student organizing. But I tell you, the mayor tops me. The mayor is constantly thinking about where can we move faster. And she thinks about education within the context of the overall health of the city of Chicago and every neighborhood in the city of Chicago. And so I thank her for her leadership, and look forward to, during these next months, doing the work that needs to be done to continue with the stability that Dr. Jackson brought to our system. That stability must continue, and we must continue to build on her progress. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I want to first say, as a parent, and I am not the CPS parent that I should be. My wife is a CPS parent. I want to make that known.
On the record.
But I was having a conversation with my wife yesterday about the district. I informed her yesterday. I found out, and I informed her that Dr. Jackson would be leaving, and my wife said, "Man, that is a major loss." For somebody, and this is not from me, this is from my wife. She said, from somebody who was a student at CPS, then became a principal, a network chief, the chief education officer, and then to go on to CPS. She knows each and everything about CPS. And as a parent, that gives me comfort. And I hopefully we will be able to find somebody to fill her shoes. That is going to be a tremendous task. And I want to say thank you to you and your team for all the great work that you have done over these years. Luckily, I've known Dr. Jackson well before she was network chief. We grew up together, so I've known her for 25 plus years. But when I was first starting in government, I was a park supervisor over at Douglas Park, and she happened to just get the assignment at Al Raby, the school that she opened up. We were sitting down in the vestibule right outside of the park and talking about our futures and where we wanted to be. And she was telling me how she was going to be the CEO of the public schools. And I said, well, if you're gonna be the CEO of public schools, I'm gonna be the alderman. I'm gonna be the alderman right here in the 24th ward. And if I knew God was going to give us our wishes, I would have aimed a lot higher. I would have asked for a much loftier gig from God. But that just talks about where she was, even in her young days, about how she had ideas for this district and how she was going to lead the district into the future. And I think she's done just that. And so again, I am humbled to be your friend. I'm humbled to be a CPS parent under your leadership, and just know that you will be missed by us parents, not the alderman, but me as a parent. I really appreciate your work. But as the mayor talked about, there is a transition that's going to happen, and I feel very confident having a conversation with President Del Valle, the mayor and the mayor's team about this process and what we're going to do to make sure that we not only build on what Dr. Jackson and her team has done, but take that to the next level. It is incumbent, like the mayor said, on all of us. Us folks as bureaucrats and politicians, but also our parents, community organizations, non-for-profits, to all chip in and make sure that our children from birth until the time they get to school have that village that the mayor talked about. And so again, I am very confident that we will get there. And Mayor, you can count on me and my support in whatever we need to do to make sure that we move this district forward. Again, thank you, Dr. Jackson and your team, and I'll turn it back over to the mayor for questions.
We're going to do one question, one follow-up, and let's start with Craig.
And let's start with on topic first.
Mayor, I guess maybe first thing you could address is you're losing 3 top people from CPS. You have 6 big shoes to fill. Do you feel like you're going to need to bring up somebody from within CPS who knows the district, knows the challenges, knows the situation with CTU, who can best lead this district? Well,
obviously, understanding the nuances of CPS are going to be a benefit, but I'm confident there's a lot of talent across the country. And while we're having this transition here in Chicago, there's transitions that are happening really across the country. I think there was a New York Times reporting about that very thing this morning or over the weekend. As I said, I think the CPS diaspora is deep and strong. People who have left this district and gone on to other districts, but I also just think the well of talent across the country, I feel very, very confident that we will get a great leadership team. And I think a credit to the kind of leader that Dr. Jackson is. She's built an infrastructure that doesn't depend on a single person. There are a lot of very talented people, some of whom are in this room with us today, who will remain and carry on. And Dr. Jackson will be here till the end of the school year, as with Chief McDade. And I feel very confident that the transition will be smooth and will be well situated. And the search begins today.
Dr. Jackson, can I ask you a question? You said you will not be leading another school system.
Yes.
But what will you be doing? And what role did the pandemic play in all of this? And finally, are you interested in politics?
No, let me start with that question because that came up a lot. I do not plan to run for any office, maybe the elected school board once that gets set up. But other than that, no, I have no interest in politics. I'm an educator, and when I think about the stuff that gets me excited, it's always about education and opportunities for kids, and that's just what I love. So that's what I'm going to be working on. While I don't have a place where I'm going immediately after this, I want to say a couple of things. First, I've had a job since I was 16. I'm one of 5 children. We grew up on the South Side. My mother and father made 2 things clear besides the fact that they loved us. One, when you turn 16, you're getting a job. They also said don't ever quit a job without having another job, so I kind of messed up on that one. And then the other thing was when you turn 18, you're going to go to college, and I did just that. I've worked my entire life while going to school, being a mom, leading, etc. I do need a break, and so I'm going to take that break, but I am happy to report that I have accepted a senior fellowship at the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. And so I am going to have some time to stop and think, talk about what I love, public education, specifically high schools. And so you'll be hearing more about that and some of the other opportunities in the coming weeks and months. But I want to be clear to the public, that's not my focus right now. Everything I said in this speech for the next couple of months and beyond are the things that I intend to get done. Number one, rolling out our plan for addressing the impact of the pandemic. The pandemic has been terrible for a lot of people, and as a person who knows what it takes to be successful under normal circumstances, I'm excited about the plan that we have in place to help our kids after these extraordinary circumstances. Making sure that we get the budgets out, making sure that we launch the curriculum. I'm going to be working on all those things. I do want to also say that I fully intend to support the new CEO, however that person would want to use me, and I will absolutely be supporting Mayor Lightfoot in whatever capacity she sees fit moving forward. I've enjoyed working for her. As she stated, we've developed a friendship. She appreciates my candor. I appreciate hers, and I really respect her leadership. She has led under extraordinary circumstances and doesn't always get the credit that she deserves for the great job that she's doing as a leader. So I'll be here as long as people will have me. But I am looking forward to just taking a break to stop and think and then just get back to solving problems.
But it's your dream job.
Yeah.
And
then sometimes you wake up.
Okay.
That's it.
That wasn't my question,
Yeah.
but I was just
You know
curious
what?
'cause-
This is the thing. I was talking to my husband about this, and I said, look, how many people get to really say they have a dream and you actually accomplish it? Let's just think about that, a dream job. I know when I was younger, everybody I grew up with wanted to go to the NBA or rap or do this or do that. You don't always get that opportunity. I was a weird teacher. I said I wanted to be the CEO. As Michael said, we were young. We were in college when we used to have these conversations. I knew what I wanted to do, and I've been able to do that, and it's because people believed in me and pushed me, and people like Mayor Lightfoot, Mayor Emanuel, and others gave me an opportunity to do that. But I also want to be clear, and this is my wish for CPS. We should expect to have good leaders come and do their job in the time frame that they set forth. I have a contract with the district that expires on June 30th. I wouldn't dare walk out of this place a day before that. And I'm also not going to walk out of here without making sure that there is a transition. But I've been here 22 years, and unless I owe CPS a baby, I think it's time.
Okay, let's talk about that reopening plan, because if you include any type of remote learning or hybrid options, kids are going to opt out of in-person learning. So what is the plan? Because if they opt out, they're going to have a diluted high school experience that will never get back to normal.
I've spoken on this. I know you agree with my thinking on this. Kids need to be in school every day. And I pushed hard, the mayor and we all pushed hard to get our kids back sooner. I personally wish we had gotten them back sooner, but it was what it was, and here we are today. As we look to the fall, with all of the things that we have in place, we know a lot more about this disease. We have the money to do this safely. Kids will be back in school full time in the fall. We're also looking to the state, and we know that people are working through that for us to get back to normal from a schooling perspective, where everyone is expected to go to school in a brick and mortar building every single day, unless there are extenuating circumstances, medical circumstances that prevent them from coming to school. So our vision, which we have been clear, is that everybody is back in school in the fall 5 days a week. I want to say back to normal from a timing and logistics perspective, but we won't be back to normal the way we were pre-pandemic, because we've learned so much that I think is good from remote learning that we can carry over into the new environment. But the goal is in person, all day, every day, for everybody in the fall.
Dr. Jackson, when did you first start thinking about leaving your position, and did you consider the next few months that you've talked about all these challenges, the fact that yourself, Chief McDade, Arnie Rivera, you're leaving the district and there are these challenges ahead.
Yeah.
Are you worried about the position the district's going to be in?
Yeah, well, of course I worry about CPS. I'm a lifelong Chicagoan and plan to be here, for as long as people will have me. But let me say this. I, of course, started, I let the mayor know a few months ago that this was something that I was thinking about. The mayor made it clear that it was my decision and that I could say as long as she would have me. Like I said, we have a great working relationship. But I explained to her kind of what I was thinking about, and I wanted to be transparent that I was having these thoughts and feelings about, doing something different outside of the district. My team, it's not perfect. We have the stories one day we'll tell, but it's a great team, and we work together, and we've worked hard. We were talking about this coming over here. I think we've served. Talk about public service. I think we've served. We've all made sacrifices, personal sacrifices, professional sacrifices to be here, and not a single person standing up here is going to let things fall. We're going to do what we need to do. We're going to see this through. We're going to get a new leader, help them develop a team in whatever way they want us to be useful. And as the mayor pointed out, the district is bigger than one person, it's bigger than 3 people. We got hundreds of leaders right now in our schools, working in our networks, who can step up and do this job. There are other people across the country who can step up and do this job. And that's the reason why we're making the announcement now. It's never a perfect time, but we want to make sure that there's some runway to start this selection process while, there's still leadership in place to lead us through.
And the mayor made it clear that this was your decision. You could have stayed if you wanted to. So did the past, you touched on this, did the past year and a half between the strike, the almost second strike, the pandemic, what role did that play in, you sort of mentioned you're tired.
Yeah.
What role did that play?
I think all of it together, if I'm being honest. If you think about it, and I said it in my remarks, I started as CEO. The first thing I had to address literally, a week into the job was a FOIA from the Tribune, thank you, around that eventually became the Portray series. And so that's how I started. But if you keep in mind, I served prior to that in the number 2 slot, leading day to day while our previous CEO was managing the fiscal crisis. And so we've dealt with fiscal crisis, cuts, strikes, almost strikes, not one almost strike, there were multiple ones, so go back and check that. And then COVID definitely put a lot of things in perspective. I think the one thing that it put in perspective for me is that family does matter. I've gotten to spend a lot more time with my family, and I'm looking forward to having a little bit more balance in my life. When I think about the totality of all of that and what I'm sacrificing and giving up at this time, I want to put more energy into them. My kids will be gone. They'll be in college and high school soon, and so I want to spend more time with them in the next few years.
I have a question actually for the mayor.
Okay.
This has been touched on, but I'm interested in your perspective. There is going to be, at least for a short time, a leadership vacuum within CPS. It was a tumultuous 7 years after Arnie Duncan left, and it was a very unstable 8 years prior to Dr. Jackson being named CEO. So what would you say to parents who might be concerned about a return to instability? And do you expect to have these new leaders in place by August 30th?
I don't expect there to be any instability. And I certainly don't agree with the premise of your question, which is that there's a leadership void. Both Dr. Jackson and I have now addressed it, but I'll say it again. Dr. Jackson and her team have built a very strong, let me just finish.
I think you misunderstood. After they leave.
So,
after they leave, they'll
yeah, well, I'm addressing what I think you're saying. After they leave, but before they left, Dr. Jackson and her team have built a very strong group of leaders across the system. This is the 3rd largest school system in the country. Not one person can make everything work. It takes a massive team, and there is a massive team at all different levels. And yes, of course, Dr. Jackson leaves a void. Chief McDade leaving leaves a void. Arnie leaving leaves a void. But each of them heads up teams of really strong people who are ready to step up and lead as we make this transition. I'm very mindful of the number of CEOs that CPS has had over time. It's a big part of the calculation for me. I didn't know Dr. Jackson really at all before we met. I think after I was elected, we met during the transition and had a very fulsome conversation, which we have built on. But it was stability was very, very important to me, and stability is what we're going to get. We have started the search. We've retained a search firm. They're very strong former educators and superintendents themselves. We are going to be looking far and wide, both internally within CPS, but also across the country, to find a very strong leader that shares our vision and passion about public education. Yes, there are big shoes to fill, but I don't think we're going to miss a beat, and I feel very enthusiastic about the opportunities that this transition provides to us as a system, but also us as a city. Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Yes. So with these three leaders,
I apologize. Can you identify yourself?
yes, sorry, Hannah Leone, Chicago Tribune. With these, three leadership searches going on all at the same time, will Dr. Jackson, Chief McDade, and Chief Avera be involved in just helping select their successors? And is there an order you'd like to do this in? Are you looking to replace the CEO first so that they can in turn help choose their positions, or will those all be separate?
Yeah, I mean, my expectation is that we will focus primarily on the CEO position for the obvious reason. You've now stepped in front of the reporter. You've stepped in front of the reporter. Okay. My expectation is that we will focus on the CEO first. And obviously part of the question during the search is, who's your team? Who do you need to bring in? And what are your expectations? Part of setting up the next CEO for success is making sure that they have some say in who the team is that they build around them. But as I said before, each of these individuals has built a really strong team that is ready, willing, and able to step up and lead in the interim. Yes, sir.
Mayor, Enrique Rodriguez from Univision. I know you talk about the leadership of the team, but for parents at home who might be concerned about their kids being vaccinated during the summer, as was planned, and the complete return to school during the fall, how is Dr. Jackson's departure not going to affect that process?
I don't think it's actually going to affect it in one way or the other. Obviously, we're hearing encouraging things about vaccines coming online for young people, and that kids as young as 12 might be in a position to get vaccine here in the coming weeks. Frankly, as a parent of a 13-year-old, I'm very enthusiastic about that. But our ability to make sure that we are well positioned to vaccine young people as the FDA and the CDC provide guidance, that's not a decision that's being made at the CEO level. That's obviously something we're going to do in conjunction with the federal government, but obviously CDPH is going to play a leading role in that. And as we've done with every other vaccine that's come on the market, we will put together a panel of experts who will evaluate the data that will be provided by the FDA and the CDC to make sure we're comfortable that every I was crossed, every I was dotted, every T was crossed, and to give confidence to parents and members of the public that this is a vaccine that is safe. And clearly, we're talking about now children, the parents are going to have to themselves be comfortable in making the decision as to whether or not they're going to get their kids vaccinated. But as you know, particularly when it comes to young people, children receive a plethora of vaccines from the earliest possible stage and to later in life. So I don't expect this process to be any different than that, but it's going to be driven by the science and the data.
I have a follow-up for you. So much has been said about the price tag on vaccination sites, on massive vaccination sites. Any plan on closing those down? And if so, how will the process to vaccinate people continue?
Well, we're at an interesting time. For the first time since we started vaccinating folks in December of this year, we actually have a lot of vaccine available. And I think where we are is digging down deeper into areas of the city, and this is particularly true of the Black South Side, which has, I think, the lowest area of uptick of any of our neighborhoods. We've got to do more literally kind of retail, door-to-door work of educating people about the safety of the vaccine, why it makes sense for them to get it, and then hopefully driving people to the variety of vaccine distribution centers that we've gotten. And now that Johnson President Johnson is back online. We have a number of plans to bring vaccine closer to residents, whether it's substantially increasing the amount of vaccine that we're bringing to our sick and shut-in and our elders, and ramping that up. We were on the cusp of doing that before the pause happened. We've got a vaccine bus where we're literally vaccinating people at bus stops on various routes across the city. So we've got a lot more work that we need to do, I think, to make sure that we get way above the 50% threshold, which is where we're at right now. Every single shot that goes into an arm is one step closer for us to kind of return back to normal. And we're going to be thinking creatively with our business community to make sure that we're incentivizing people, particularly young people, to get the vaccine. Go ahead, Sarah.
I wanted to ask about Senator Harman saying that he wanted to see a compromise on the elected/hybrid school board, and he wanted to end in eventually a fully elected school board in Chicago. And I wanted to know your reaction to that. Is that something that you're willing to compromise on?
Well, I share the value that we need to sit down and negotiate. And we've been talking to Senator Harman and his team, as well as Speaker Welch and his team, for months now about just that. So I embrace the thrust of President Harman's statement, which is that we need to sit down and reach a compromise. My values on this are very, very clear. Number one, parent voices have to have a seat at the table. Number two, we cannot and I will not agree to anything that disenfranchises any part of our residents, including undocumented individuals. That's a non-starter for me. And we've got to also make sure that we're structuring a governance structure that addresses all the issues that we've been talking about today. We've got great challenges that we must meet in this moment for CPS. And we've got to make sure that we have a governance structure that is up to the task of addressing long-term issues like student achievement, making sure that regardless of zip code, that we are doing everything we can to maximize the educational abilities for our students. We can't think about a governance structure that's divorced from those core values but issues that are facing CPS today. And I've been very, very candid, as I always am, with Springfield leadership about why these things are important, and we will continue to make that case at the table but also outside of the table.
After break, it'll be last two.
Dr. Jackson, a question for you. Doctor, it's no secret that relationships between the district and the teachers union have been bumpy the last couple of years. I suspect that's one of the reasons you're tired and get tired of fighting.
Yeah.
My question is, how do you get structurally? How do you get beyond this constant fighting with all kinds of ill will and nasty names going around and everything else? How do you move beyond it?
You know, I'm hopeful that a new leader coming in can provide that. But if I'm being honest, and you can definitely call me out on this, I don't think you can count one single time where any nasty comment or name calling came from me related to CTU. I respect teachers. I am a teacher. I probably think of myself more as a principal because I spend most of my time doing that. But at the end of the day, I'm an educator. My hope for the district, and this is something that I will say today and will continue to say even more loudly as I make this transition, is that number one, parents should be in the driver's seat for leadership in this district, number one, period. And I hope that we see more parents speaking up, and that when parents do speak up to advocate for their children, that it's not drowned out with the politics and some of the other things that are going around. I think the other thing that I'll say is that we have to collectively, it's not going to be one person, it's not me or the new CEO or the mayor or the board chair that needs to speak up on behalf of our children, but it needs to be a collective group of people. Right now, the politics in education are ugly. I think they're misplaced, and they should not get the coverage that they get, in my personal opinion. And I'm making a distinction between what you sometimes hear from CTU leadership and what average rank and file teachers want every day. All of the issues that they care about, I completely agree with. There's complete alignment there. The tactics that are used in order to get that, I don't agree with. And I do think that they make it difficult for good people to do these jobs. I think the team that I have, Arnie and LaTanya, I have to express my gratitude to them, as well as countless others who you don't know and don't see every day. People that have worked hard and poured into me and kept me going despite some of those challenges. But I think if people are really serious and care about what this transition is going to look like, whatever your role is, whether it's media, whether it's a parent, whether it's an everyday teacher, I get emails from teachers who say, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that, but nobody's speaking up. I think it's ugly and it needs to stop, and it doesn't help our district. And CPS is an outlier. It's not normal. And I hope that it changes for the sake of our children, because I think the people who benefit the least from all of that are the children in CPS. And so I think I'm proud of my time that I've been here. I think I've led with grace and dignity. I bit my tongue. For you who don't know me well, I say a lot of crazy stuff. Hopefully there are no tapes. We'll find out later about that. But I don't say that publicly because I believe decorum and professionalism are important core values, and I always remember that our children are looking. And I just hope that, you know, my other colleagues and partners in this work keep that in mind when they're advocating for a better education.
Well, I think a lot of CPS parents were scared to speak up because of retaliation from the CTU, because they are a third political party here, and well, I feel like they are, and with all the power. So what would you like to say, a parting gift, or not a parting gift, any words for Jesse Sharkey or Stacey Davis Gates?
Well, you know, to be honest, and I say this to people all the time. I know, no. Jesse, we have very productive conversations privately, extremely productive, and we agree on a lot of stuff. I wish they would say some of that stuff more publicly, but I also understand the way the world works. I learned that. I didn't know it prior to coming into this space. And so my advice or my wish is that people just really focus on children. Our children are hurting. They need a lot, and part of my passion and tenacity comes from I know how to get from 79th and Racine to the C-suite. And you don't get there without a high quality education. You don't get there by BSing people and telling them that other things matter more, because at the end of the day, you're not going to get into college, you're not going to get the job, you're not going to be taken seriously if you don't have a high quality education. And so we have to stay focused on that and cut the other crap out. That's my advice to everybody. And like I said, I'll be here after this to speak more on that. You know, I bite my tongue sometimes because I represent the district, and I have to, you know, that's something that I take very seriously as I'm in this role. But I also think I'll be doing a lot more advocating as a CPS parent, and making sure that we hold everybody accountable. Everybody that's in a leadership position needs to be held accountable for what they do and what they say, because it impacts the way this district operates. So you'll be hearing more from me on that.
Okay. We good?
All right.
One more. Sorry.
Yes.
Quick question for Mayor Lightfoot.
Mayor Lightfoot?
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, Colin Boyle, Block Club Chicago. Just a question from our editors. In light of the WBZ story this morning about how only about 25% of CPD officers have gotten their first shot at a city-run site like what we were talking about earlier, will the city require CPD officers to be vaccinated, and why isn't the city keeping track of city workers' vaccine statuses?
Well, I don't know that number is actually accurate when you look at the totality. There are a number of sites that were set up primarily for first responders where they weren't specifically saying, what's your employer, where do you work, right? That show their credentials and then they'd come in. So I actually think the number is higher. And given that there have been people who got vaccinated by their private doctors that went to these pop-up sites, it's difficult in that circumstance for us to be able to know in totality who's gotten vaccinated. But obviously, we want to maximize the number, not just for CPD, but truly for all of our city employees and residents across the city. Maximizing the number of people that get the vaccine is what is going to allow us to get back to a sense of normal, making summer of 2021 look more like summer of 2019.
Absolutely. And then just another follow-up question, off topic from CPS. But in the Sun-Times this morning, there was an article about how the MacArthur Foundation had a study out that says about 86% of ShotSpotter reports go unfounded. Should the city and CPD keep spending money on ShotSpotter technology?
Well, again, I challenge And I don't think that you said the MacArthur Foundation. I think that's the MacArthur Justice Center who sues the city. So let's make sure that that's clear. That's not the MacArthur Foundation. I'm not confident that those numbers are actually accurate, but here's what I do know. ShotSpotter technology, when coupled with the camera technology that we have in the SDSC rooms, no question whatsoever is a lifesaver. Number one, it allows us in real time to understand what's happened in any given location and dispatch people to help. Number two, in an environment where people are fearful sometimes of calling 911 for a variety of reasons, ShotSpotter allows us to understand that there are those challenges exist that are out there. So where the calls for service don't come, we still are able to respond. And what I also know is that this year, and again, unfortunately, I don't think the reporting has done justice to it. We are at 60% of homicide clearance rate. In part because ShotSpotter, coupled with the SDSC rooms, have provided a bounty of real-time information. So detectives are on the scene, securing the evidence, looking for witnesses, getting additional video support. ShotSpotter, coupled with the technology that we have in the city, has been invaluable. I have these conversations because they're initiated many times from mayors of other cities across the country. ShotSpotter alone isn't enough, but paired up with the other technology and the emphasis that we've been placing on really solving crimes and winning the confidence of the public, and I shouldn't underestimate that, we are seeing, even in these very challenging times, where legitimacy of policing is very much on the table, people are coming forward and providing invaluable information that leads to us solving shootings, homicides, and other violent crimes. So it's the whole package, and ShotSpotter plays, I think, an important role there. Now, obviously, like with any contract, we need to make sure that we are continually evaluating it to making sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck, and that's something that CPD engages on a regular basis with the folks from ShotSpotter. But it's been an incredibly important tool in our crime-fighting arsenal because we are using it and integrating it with other technology.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.